Boom! The harsh brakes tear through the night. Qin Sang is still hesitating. It's not that he doesn't have the courage to die, but he still has his family, parents, and brothers. The severe pain from his body brought him back to reality, only pain, not his hands and feet. The body seemed to be deformed, squeezed into a small corner, the canine-like iron frame looked hideous. The car turned vigorously, and the lights converged on the neon on the side of the road. A kaleidoscope appeared in the field of vision. There was a red line in front of him. The dark topaz Buddha hanging at the end of the red line drew a short arc, and immediately hit the bridge of his nose. Between light and shadow, the fountain of blood drowned the jade Buddha. It should be that the artery on the neck was ruptured. Car accident. Qin Sang regrets it, the other party has done it first, so you shouldn't hesitate. Death, everything, what you have worked hard, and what you cared about has lost its meaning. The only thing I can think about is what kind of place I am going to go. Must be hell. I want to live. Qin Sang's eyes were wide. The inertia brought about by the impact has not yet been completed, and it is still turning. The jade Buddha in front of him swings and swings, as if it has swung into the soul. The dark vortex swallowed him. Boom! The sun is like a fire. The Rocky Mountains are steep, chaotic rocks, scarcely green, and there are scattered short bird calls in the distance, adding a little bit of heat. On the rugged mountain road, a team of prisoner cars moved slowly. On both sides of the team, a few fierce and sturdy men galloped, lashed and yelled at the horses. These brawny men on horseback do not dress like servants, but act more like robbers and bandits. The cage on the car is also very crude. It looks like it was newly made, and the wood is still showing fresh white stubble. Every cage is full of prisoners. Qin Sang was with his hands and feet, curled up in the corner of the cage, his eyes recovered a little bit of clarity. Since regaining consciousness, he has been confused and awake occasionally, until today he has completely digested the memory of this body. This flesh body is also surnamed Qin. He comes from a village called Wangjiazhuang. His parents are farmers in the village. He has 2 older brothers. He ranks 3rd in the family. The village calls him the 3rd baby. Qin's family is hard-working, and there is a lot of labor at home, and life is considered rich, but how much gold and silver can be shoveled out of the ground? Qin's father and Qin's mother had other thoughts, not only sent Qin Sanwa to study, Qin Sanwa just turned 15, and took him to the king's shopkeeper, hoping to make a living. This king's shopkeeper is the old friend of Qin's father and is also a member of Wangjiazhuang. When he was young, he built a shop in the nearby small town. He was much more generous than the farmers in the village and was a decent person. The shopkeeper Wang looked at Qin Sanwa honestly and was willing to take him with him as a buddy. The Qin family's parents were naturally grateful and hurriedly agreed. This is the first time that Qin Sanwa has left home in her life. She abides by her parents' teachings in fear. She is very diligent with her hands and feet. She is also loved by the shopkeeper Wang and is willing to take him when she goes out to buy goods. Unexpectedly, this world is chaotic. Not long after the shopkeeper and the young man set off, they encountered this group of bandits on the mountain road. Shopkeeper Wang was slashed to the head, and Qin Sanwa was tied into a prison car, leaving a small life for the time being. Poor Qin Sanwa, whoever encountered such a change, soon died of horror, and Qin Sang was cheaper. Dove occupied the magpie's nest, and the strange body made Qin Sang a clear sense of alienation and strangeness. The signs in his memory indicated that this was a world different from the previous life, but Qin Sang was not in the mood to care about it. The sun is getting more and more poisonous, his body is exhausted, and the wound is unbearable. Qin Sang refreshed his spirits, blinking sour eyes. His eyes suddenly swept to the last carriage of the convoy, and suddenly remembered what he saw 3 days ago when he was awake. In one scene, at midday, the back is still cold. Looking back and forth, there is not much left in the prison car. There is no time, I must find a way to escape. The convoy have traveled all the way north for more than 10 days. Now they are far away from Wangjia's Wang. Qin Sanwa's memory can't provide any help, and Qin Sang doesn't know where they are. At first, they still walked along the main road. The bandits did everything and arrested many people. When they have enough people, they will go to the wilderness and forests, deliberately avoiding strangers. The wilderness, there is no way to ask for help. If you want to survive, you can only rely on yourself. 5 people were squeezed in the narrow prison car. Qin Sang arched back because of the pain of the squeezed bones. The prisoners were all young men who were innocent and poor people who were arrested just like Qin Sanwa. Qin Sang arched hard for a few times without cursing. He only heard a few weak moans, and he couldn't help but feel desperate. Including myself, the prisoners are hungry and very weak. Those bandits are all powerful, and there are horses under their hips. How can they escape? At that moment, a light breeze blew in, bringing a rare coolness, and a jade belt appeared in front of him. There was a small river behind the mountain. The surface of the river was wide and calm, shimmering, and not turbulent. There are some ancient trees on the river bank, and waist-high yellow grass covers the entire river beach. The breeze makes a great place for burials. Call. The leader of this group of bandits is a brawny man. He led the team to the river, and the leader rode his horse back to the last carriage. Unlike other prison vehicles, this vehicle was covered with a black cloth, and it was impossible to see who was inside, and the people in it had never been out. Before reaching the carriage, the leader got off his horse, put his face away, walked to the carriage lightly, knelt down on his knees, and said respectfully, "Master, this is the Shenshui River. The Shenshui River connects to the Wuling River. This place is already within the territory of the Great Sui Kingdom." There was no response in the carriage, and the leader squatted on the ground and dared not get up. After a while, a hoarse voice came out, "Build a raft to cross the river and continue northbound." The brawny man hurriedly responded. Just as he was about to get up, a violent cough suddenly came out from the carriage. "Quick! Send 2 blood foods in." Cough. Qin Sang was shocked, and then all the prisoners rioted. Whenever the ferry begs for blood food, 2 prisoners will be sent to the black cloth wagon. www.mtlnovel.com 2 corpses will be sent out after an hour. 3 days ago, Qin Sang accidentally saw the appearance of the corpse. A living person entered, and what came out was a dried corpse. The flesh and blood was completely sucked up, and a piece of skin was attached to the skeleton. Those dry eyes are still vivid, as if telling him of boundless fear, shattering Qin Sang's 3 views. If the 5 senses were not so clear, Qin Sang would have thought he had reached the 18th level of hell, but he couldn't remember which level of torture was to squeeze the flesh. "Come out!" The leader arranged for his men to cut down trees to build a raft, and personally pulled 2 people from the car next to him. Qin Sang secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but the despair in his heart was not reduced by half. If he couldn't escape, he would only live a few days longer than the 2 of them at most. What can be fortunate? Qin Sang's eyes were staring at the bandits who were building rafts. The efficiency of these bandits was amazing. A raft was about to be created in an instant. Qin Sang could only pray that they cut corners and the raft collapsed in the river. Compared to being sucked dry, he would rather drown in the river. In this life, he would have more dreams before he died. The leader walked quickly to the carriage. The 2 hapless guys were carried by the leader. They exhausted their last strength and cried. The bandits by the river kept laughing and laughing. Water, wind, swords, footsteps, screams, groans, laughter. Various voices broke into his ears, and the whole world suddenly became noisy. Qin Sang's heart was extremely irritable. He felt that the world was spinning around, and he was fainted, and suddenly heard a thunderous shout. "Devil! Let's see where you go this time." Qin Sang suddenly raised his head, only to see a dazzling white light flashing from the top of the mountain, coming through the air, dazzling more than the sun. White light, like a sword. Flying sword. Qin Sang opened his eyes abruptly, and was immediately dazzled by the harsh sunlight, and hurriedly closed. His throat was thirsty and unbearable, and the ubiquitous pain came like a tide. Qin Sang straightened his upper body with his arms on the ground, and found that he had fallen out of the prison car without knowing when, lying on the ground and fainted, his right leg was pressed against him. Under a broken cage, it's no wonder the calf hurts so much that it might be broken. How did the prison car turn over? Qin Sang tried his best to recall the memories before the coma. With a splitting headache, he barely sat up, and when he opened his eyes, there was a messy scene in the distance. The old trees on the river bank fell down and broke, and some seemed to have been struck by thunder. There was a big fire on a tree, and the thick smoke from the wind choked people. The large yellow grass beach was completely unrecognizable. It was almost arched by wild boars. Many extremely deep gullies were exposed on the ground, and the white grass roots were intertwined. When the convoy came over, the river beach was obviously very flat. Qin Sang looked at all this blankly, and finally recalled some memory fragments. A man in white fell from the sky, and those bandits knelt on the ground and shouted to the ferry. Fijian stabbed the black cloth carriage, and the carriage exploded with a boom, and a man in a black robe flew out. The two seemed to have grudges. When they met, they fought, and then it seemed to hear a strange noise, and he fainted. Passed. What happened after he was in a coma? Both of them can fly. This is obviously abnormal. Those bandits call them celestial masters. Are they true celestial beings? Qin Sanhua also heard a lot of fairy stories when she was a child. Qin Sang thought that they were all superstitions just like her previous life, but it does not seem to be the case now. Who won the two fairy masters? Qin Sang did not see the shadow of the immortal teacher. When he swept around, the prison car was stumbling, and the cage on the car was basically broken. The brothers and sisters who were trapped in the cage were lying on the ground. No wonder he felt so soft under his hands actually pressed on a person's stomach. Qin Sang quickly raised his hand, and then looked slightly startled, carefully stretched out his hand on the man's wrist. No pulse. Died. Perhaps it was the reason for his death once. Qin Sang's courage was much greater than in his previous life. There was a corpse lying beside him, but there was not much fear in his heart. Is anyone still alive? Qin Sang hurriedly looked at the other people. Everyone was motionless on the ground, even the horses pulling the cart. There was no ups and downs on his body. The scene was extremely strange. Suddenly, Qin Sang caught a glimpse of people lying on the bank of the river. The bandits were cutting trees to build a raft. When the white-clothed men appeared, they knelt down and called the ferry master, and somehow they all passed out in a coma. Qin Sang's eyes changed suddenly. Those bandits were strong and they didn't fall. They were probably the same as him, but they passed out in a coma and haven't died. Thinking of this, Qin Sang leaned forward hurriedly, lifted the wooden cage on his legs with great effort, took a breath and couldn't help but snorted, but he swallowed abruptly for fear of alarming the bandits. Don't break your legs, otherwise, even if you get away, it will be difficult to get out of this barren mountain alive. Qin Sang prayed secretly, pulling out his leg to check. Fortunately, the bone is not broken. But when he tried to exert force, it was painful again. At least it was a fractured bone, and he couldn't walk in a short time. Even if he crawled, Qin Sang had to climb over. He touched a knife at the waist of a bandit. He cut off the ropes of his hands and feet. He called them one by one. He wanted to stab his heart, but he was blocked by the sternum and his hands hurt. So he cut first throat, and finally to the heart. Looked at the blood-stained hands for a while, and Qin Sang realized that the bandits didn't hum when they were stabbed, they were already dead, but he was crazy, and he was hit by a knife. He was a little scared, not afraid of the dead body, but afraid of himself. Throwing away the knife in his hand, turned around and crawled to the river, buried his face in the water, and when he was about to suffocate, he suddenly raised his head, panted heavily, and calmed down a little. I don't kill them, they will kill me. If you had this realization in your previous life, how could you still end up like this? Not right. One more. Qin Sang was agitated suddenly, and his cold sweat almost came off. When he saw a corpse filled with wood chips, he was relieved and collapsed to the ground. When the black cloth carriage exploded, the leader was beside the carriage and died on the spot. The bandits were all dead, and Qin Sang didn't dare to relax, so he used a wooden stick to prop up his body. When he saw the whole picture of the grassy beach in the distance, Qin Sang couldn't help but confuse his tongue. Is this caused by the fight between the two immortals? The power is too terrifying. Among the wild grass, there are two people crawling, one black and the other white. Reasonably tell Qin Sang that these two immortal masters are not normal people, and they are different from the bandits. Now is the best time to escape. Although the legs can't walk, but the river is not in a hurry, there is a raft that is ready to be built next to it, and the last two vines are tied to leave this place of right and wrong. After a battle between heaven and man, Qin Sang touched the knife and crawled over. It was only clear from a close distance that the man in black was cut with a sword in his waist, and the whole person was cut into two sections. The flying sword must be extremely sharp, with a smooth cut, and the scene is a bit permeating. There is a shocking blood hole in the white-clothed man's chest. It seems that something has been slashed in his chest. The blood and the inside are blurred, and the internal organs are stirred into a pot of porridge. Is all gone? Qin Sang secretly rejoiced, but also a little lost. Carefully lifting off the black robe of the man in black, Qin Sang was startled by an old and ugly face, and then fumbled on him. The immortal master seemed very poor and there was no silver on his body. Qin Sang finally only a piece of sheepskin and a book were found on his chest. He turned it over, and most of the words in the book were recognizable, obscure, and incomprehensible. There was nothing on the sheepskin, except for the unusual softness, it was just ordinary leather. Hey! Qin Sang suddenly saw something pressed under the man in black and moved his upper body away, only to see a black flag on the ground. The flagpole is not big. The flagpole is only as long as his palm. The top is pointed and the bottom is rounded. Qin Sang took a closer look at the flagpole. I don't know what texture the flagpole is. Doesn't sound like a good thing, and coupled with the previous scene where the demon sucked people up and fucked, Qin Sang almost threw this Yamaha banner out. The face of this Yamabun flag is a slender rag, a little shorter than the flagpole, with many holes broken, and a devil's pattern can be vaguely seen. After two more glances, Qin Sang only felt that his consciousness was about to be sucked in, and hurriedly removed his eyes. Really evil. There is nothing good about this demon. Qin Sang tangled the Yan Luo banner indiscriminately, wrapped it in sheepskin with the book, and turned his head to look at the man in white, his eyes a little complicated. Unlike what Qin Sang imagined, the man in white looks very young, he looks only 15 or 16 years old, his face is like a crown jade, sword eyebrows and stars, and his face is covered with many leaves of grass. He is still the second generation of Qin Sang. The young man I've ever seen can be called Feng Shen Yulang. The young man's eyes were wide, as if he was questioning the sky. Qin Sang gently closed the eyes of the white-clothed boy, hesitated for a moment, and searched for him. The boy was cleaner than the demon. Qin Sang turned over his underwear, only to find a colorful kit. The kit is the size of a palm and is dotted with exquisite moire patterns. The material is excellent. It feels more delicate than the best silk in the past. A beautiful silk ribbon on the top is closed and hung on the waist of a teenager. At first, Qin Sang thought it was a sachet. I found that it was not, there seemed to be nothing inside. Qin Sang tried it, but didn't open the kit, the ribbon was stronger than expected. The fairy teachers are so poor? Qin Sang was disappointed, not to mention the rare treasures in the legend, he didn't even have gold or silver. Where is that flying sword? Thinking of Fijian, Qin Sang felt hot in his heart. No matter his past and present, the legend of the Sword Fairy is indispensable. Each one is extremely exciting and fascinating. But Qin Sang looked left and right, where is the shadow of Fijian? Picking up the hands of the white-clothed man, Qin Sang frowned, and found that the white-clothed man's hands were clenched. There seemed to be something in it, and he hurriedly broke apart. There were some broken stones in his left hand, and a small wooden sword fell out of his right. Qin Sang picked up the sword. The surface of the small sword seemed to have a black light, like an ebony sword. The body of the sword was very finely carved, and there were some lines on it. It is probably the wood grain of the material itself, but unfortunately there is no lettering. This ebony sword is only as long as a little finger, and it is quite heavy in the hand, but it has no blade, and the tip of the sword cannot be pierced even with the fingers. It looks like a toy. Qin Sang frowned, recalling the scene when he saw Fijian, and realized that Fijian and ebony sword were exactly the same, but they were much larger than ebony sword and the size of a normal sword. Could it be possible that flying swords can be made bigger and smaller at will? Are these terrible gullies caused by this small sword? Qin Sang wrapped everything in sheepskin, and hid the person in black on his chest. Suddenly he heard crackling noises coming from him. He raised his upper body and took a look. The flames from that tree rushed to the grassy beach at some point. The breeze is smooth, and the river beaches are full of yellow grasses, which will catch a little, and the fire is about to rise. Careless! Qin Sang cursed secretly. It was too late to collect the corpse. He bowed to the boy in white and said softly, "I don't know the origin of the beneficiary's name. I will keep this kit as a token. Original owner." After all, Qin Sang stared at the young man for a while, remembering his looks, and struck the two people with a knife a few times. Although the fabric was fine, it was all ordinary material, and it broke with a single stroke. Climbing to the river skillfully. Seeing the fire rushing at the speed visible to the naked eye, Qin Sang was very anxious, and hurriedly touched two purses on the thief, hurriedly tied the raft tightly, pushed into the river, and climbed up with a knife. Engulf the river beach. Hoo! The fire is raging, and the smoke is billowing. The raft drifted along the water. Qin Sang felt it, and the water was really gentle, so he relaxed, turned his head and stared at the sea of fire. In a blink of an eye, dozens of lives were gone, and there were no bones left, including two mysterious immortal masters. Qin Sang didn't have much trouble in his heart, but he felt exhausted to the extreme. He cheered up, picked up a few dry cakes he had touched from the bandit, and gobbled it up in the river. Thinking of the possessions he had earned in exchange for his life, he hurriedly took them out and sorted them out. The two purses contained mostly gold, worth nearly 100 taels of silver, which was enough for him to squander it for a while, but Qin Sang put it away at random. Wrapped the books and kits in sheepskin and hid them next to his chest. Qin Sang drew a few cotton threads from his body to tie up the small sword, hung it around his neck, and hid it in the collar. Xiaojian's appearance is not good. Even if outsiders see it, they will only think that it is a wooden amulet, but it must be the Xianjia Fijian. I wanted to see villages and towns and went ashore for help. Unexpectedly, after a long time, Qin Sang chopped a branch to fix his calf, lying on the raft, playing with a small sword with his fingers, staring at the rear, his eyes fluctuating, and the sky faintly energy. Saw the floating smoke and dust. There was another car accident. That terrifying dark vortex appeared time and time again. This time it took a long time, and it turned faster and faster. Qin Sang was cold all over, and was about to suffocate. He sat up suddenly in shock and found that he was still on the raft. It was just a nightmare just now. After he got out of the danger, he relaxed, and fell asleep on the raft in a sleepy condition. I don't know how long I slept. It's already night, the starry night is moonless, and the stars are scattered on the surface of the water, and they are broken into debris by layers of water. Wow! Suddenly a wave rushed up. Qin Sang shuddered, completely awake, and was shocked that he was soaked all over. The river here was turbulent and the waves were constant, far less calm than during the day. The raft ups and downs in the water waves. Qin Sang looked down and suddenly got startled in a cold sweat. www.mentalnovel.com. There was a huge whirlpool on the water in front, and the raft was drifting towards the center of the whirlpool. That scene. Qin Sang realized the terrible whirlpool in the water and lost his color in shock. Only then did he discover that the raft drifted into a wide river at some time. The river was surging, and the waves were dangerous. He floated on a lone raft in the middle of the river, helpless. He could only use his knife to paddle the water, but with little success. Just then, a shout suddenly came from behind. "Boy on the raft, stop rowing, grab the rope." Qin Sang turned his head and saw that there was a big ship parked on the river. Only a dark outline and lighted lights could be seen in the dark night. A lamp was hung from the ship, and then the lamp drew an arc and fell into the river. Only then did Sang see clearly that it was in the hands of a person. This person has a handheld lamp, and the other is holding a rope. The moment he falls on the water, he jumps up again with a little toe, so that he does not sink in the water, and walks on the waves as if walking on the ground. Another fairy. Qin Sang looked straight. "I see it." Halfway through the journey, the man yelled again, flicked his arm fiercely, and pulled the rope into the air. He flew over to Qin Sang, watching the momentum quickly, but he was unloaded when he was about to fall in front of Qin Sang. "Quite a few." Qin Sang hurriedly threw the knife away, struggled to get up, grabbed the rope and wrapped it around his waist without stopping, and then clung to it tightly. Seeing Qin Sang's cleverness, the man gave a compliment, flung the light, and shouted, "Take the rope." Hearing a shout from the boat, the rope stretched instantly, and a huge force took Qin Sang directly into the air. He was about to hit the ship's side, and Qin Sang closed his eyes horribly. The man kicked hard, rose in the air, grabbed Qin Sang by the collar, stepped on the boat gang, and jumped onto the boat in a few steps. It was so easy to coax Chun Tao back, and Bai Jianglan ordered Qin Sang to be picked up. "Brother Qin, Miss Chun Tao is also concerned about the safety of the young lady. You must not care. If you are wronged, go to the tail cabin and rest overnight. I will order someone to bring some food over, and I will send you off at the Sanuchan ferry." Sanuchan, the north-south thoroughfare, is a place where merchants must pass. Maybe there are fellow villagers of the Qin brothers. Qin Sang was so grateful that he thought of the two purses on his body, took it out, and said, "Big brother Bai's life-saving grace." Qin Sang didn't repay it. "These gold and silver belonged to the two bandits I killed. Brother is not too dirty." "Hey!" Bai Jianglan was full of displeasure, and pushed Qin Sang's hand back. Bai used to have low martial arts, walked the rivers and lakes, and was helped by many chivalrous men. Now he is just following the example of the sages and doing some small actions. "I will not mention the money again, otherwise I will leave you off the boat." Qin Sang's face was sorrowful and he held his hands. The man who helped him laughed and said, "Boss Bai's salary is more than 1,000 taels a year. How can he covet your money? You take your life and save it to go home and marry a wife." The tail compartment was divided into several rooms. Originally, it was a resting place for boatmen. Now it is filled with debris. I found one that was fairly clean. It was filled with straw. A quilt was delivered on it. Although it was simple, it was Qin Sang couldn't even think of it in the past 10 months. Settling Qin Sang, Bai Jianglan took the people back to the boat, and soon someone sent down an old suit and hot food. Qin Sang gobbled it up and ate it without any taste. Changed into his clothes, wrapped the bedding tightly, and after thinking about it for a long time, Qin Sang fell into a deep sleep. Before going to bed, he couldn't help touching the ebony sword and a few things on his chest, but didn't take it out to look at it. There is no dream all night. Qin Sang opened his eyes, feeling the swaying cabin, and his spirit was unprecedented. The belly is grunting again, I don't know when it is. Qin Sang sat up, found a wooden stick, stood up slowly, lit his feet, and was able to walk slowly with the strength of the stick, and couldn't help but sigh the magic of internal strength again. Moved step by step, walked under the ladder in the tail cabin, and heard hoo-ha from above in my ears, and a head came out. It was the one who supported him yesterday. Brother Qin is awake. The man jumped in one step at a time, groaningly said, "Your legs are still not good, why did you get up by yourself?" "I have been guarding it, and I will come down after you shout." "Come, get down in the cabin, and I will lift you up." It's still early. Before the meal started, Mr. Bai was teaching martial arts to the brothers. The ship has passed Judiagzaya and is not far from the Three-Witch City. After breakfast, he will be able to send you off the ship. Qin Sang calmly looked at this man. He was about the same age as him, he was lively, and his mouth kept open. "How do you call this big brother?" "My name is Zhou Ning, I am good at water, and I always call me Water Monkey." After the Three-Witch City, the water will be relieved, but unfortunately you have to get off the boat after a while. "I can't eat the fish that I can touch. 9 beards are fresh, but they can't catch the net without eating bait. Few people can touch it except me." It turned out to be Brother Zhou. Qin Sang interrupted quickly when he saw his eyes getting brighter and brighter when he said that he was fishing. "No problem." While talking, the two climbed onto the deck. It was at dawn, and heavy fog formed on the surface of the river, covering all the green hills on the shore, and the eyes were full of white fog, and the river breeze was very cold. On the deck, the strong men I saw yesterday were all wearing standard short leanings, with the word East written on their backs in white paint, and they were not afraid of the cold. They were lined up in a line to punch, and the hot sweat on their heads melted into the fog. Inside the 9th style, the angry dragon destroys the mountain. Bai Jianglan was holding a short stick and his expression was stern. When everyone made a mistake, he was about to get a stick on his back, but no one cried out, and no one resisted. The Wuling River System, the leader of the Three-Witch City, because of the location, people from the southwestern countries have to pass through the Three-Wu City when they come to Dasui. The most chaotic. Brother Qin, you have no martial arts, you must be careful when you disembark, hide your purse and don't miss it, otherwise it will definitely cause disasters, and you will have to go home quickly when you find your fellow villagers. Under Qin Sang's calm guidance, Zhou Ning got up and talked, and Qin Sang also listened carefully. Only then did Qin Sang know that this place is no longer the Ning state where his hometown is. The Great Sui dynasty is adjacent to Ning state, and the Great Sui dynasty is in the northeast of Ning state. There are several steep mountain ranges between the two countries, and there is also the Wuling River, which has always been stable. Those bandits climbed over the mountains and went all the way north, and I don't know why. The Wuling River is divided into several tributaries at the location of the Three-Witch City. These tributaries are all powerful and the entire Wuling water system flows through several countries. Because of this, the Three-Witch City is so special. In addition, there is also a royal mansion in the Three-Witch City. One of the 8 kings of the Sui dynasty, Zhen Shui King, sits in the city. There is an army of water kings, the city is stable, and businessmen from all over the world are willing to come here to trade. The first ferry is the largest ferry in front of the Three-Witch City, Yu reading www.yuuganshu. If Com Qin Sang wants to go home, it is easiest to find home merchants there. Listening to Zhou Ningxiu's rumblings, Qin Sang's eyes kept turning on Bai Jianglan and the others, and gradually saw some clues. Such strict discipline, Qin Sang only seen in soldiers, plus last night listening to Chun Tao inadvertently it is said that they were sent by the prince to guard the young lady. Could it be that which prince's guards are these people? Qin Sang glanced at the dazzling hall. Zhou Ning just said that there are 13 counties in the Great Sui dynasty. There are 8 princes in all. They are noble, second only to the emperor of the Great Sui dynasty. I don't know what the status of that lady is, and it is worthy of the prince to send troops to her. Zhou Ning. Zhou Ning was agitated, and his temperament suddenly became fierce. Yes. Entry. Yes. Zhou Ning ran back to the team. Bai Jianglan walked over. Qin Sang struggled to see him. Big brother Bai. Bai Jianglan waved his hand to ask Qin Sang not to be polite. Did you sleep well last night? Brother's superficial skills made brother Qin laugh. Several big brothers are heroes, and Qin Sang is very envious. Big brother Bai, if Qin Sang starts to learn martial arts now, can he make you so good? Qin Sang said seriously, he really envied and wanted to learn. Bai Jianglan laughed and said, what am I? Those innate masters on the rivers and lakes can release true energy, an internal force will give birth to sword light. There is even a legend that an innate master killed an immortal master, that is really powerful. Can an immortal master be beheaded by a martial artist? Qin Sang was stunned and couldn't wait to ask, has Big Brother Bai ever seen an immortal master? Bai Jianglan shook his head, see through Qin Sang's intentions, and persuaded, the fairy dragon sees the head but does not see the end. How many have actually seen it? There are countless people seeking immortality in the world, and they will end up in the mountains and rivers. Reading, wasted a great time. When the boat arrived at the dock, Qin Sang also listened to the old man telling a lot about the deeds of the Jixin Taoist. Qiming Mountain Qingyang Temple flourished at first, and then gradually declined. Guanzhong Taoist priests left one after another, only a few veteran Taoists were left, and they gradually grew old and died. The Taoist temple was not repaired, it was getting more and more dilapidated, and overgrown with weeds. If it were not for the Taoist of Jixin, within a few years, the Qingyang temple would only be left in ruins. Jixin Taoist's most popular thing is not his status as a master, but his heart of benevolence and righteousness. After he took over the Qingyang view with a little apprentice, instead of asking for incense, he went up to the mountains to gather medicine and administer medicine to the poor to cure diseases. Some people have bruises, wind, cold, dampness and heat, and they only ask to come to the door. The Jixin Taoists will treat them carefully. The medical skills may not be very good, but the consultation fee is very low. If you really have no money, you can also keep accounts, but if you don't pay it back for 3 to 5 years, he won't ask for it. His reputation gradually spread. In addition, he was given the name of a living with his status as a Qingyang Guanzu. The old man parked the boat in front of the dock, and while holding Qin Sang disembarking, he persuaded him, Brother Qin's leg injury is not serious, and the living will be able to help you diagnose and treat, but Qiming Mountain is between Sanmu City and the ferry, passing from here. 10 miles away, you have to walk the mountain road. Brother Qin has to hire a car. The little old man knows a few coachmen and guarantees that the price is fair. Qin Sang declined the old man's kindness, and limped into the crowd with a wooden stick under the old man's disappointed eyes. Walking in the crowd, hearing the accent from the north to the south, Qin Sang secretly said that the city of 3 witches is indeed well deserved. Affected by a leg injury, Qin Sang stopped and went, really making him hear the accent of his hometown. Zhang Mu looked over and saw several people in silk and satin on the shore directing heavy workers to load the ship. Watching them load a cargo and sail away from the river bank, Qin Sang turned around resolutely and walked into a restaurant without saying a word. After eating delicious river fish and fresh fish, Qin Sang sat on the second floor, blowing the river breeze, holding a teacup and looking out the window at the narrow river and the busy living beings. He was stunned for a while. Store, check out. Qin Sauna took out a grain of silver, watched the shopkeeper weigh it with his son, pinched the copper coins he found, and asked, if there is a shopkeeper, I want to go to the 3 witch city. I don't know where I can hire a carriage. The shopkeeper took a look at Qin Sang and pointed out the door, go straight west along this street. At the end, there are more than a dozen car dealers crowded together, all of whom are engaged in serious business. The carriage at Dajikao. Maybe it's Qin Sang who eats a lot, the shopkeeper kindly reminded, "This year, it's better not to go on the road alone, you should hire a few people together, it will be cheaper." From the first intersection to Sanmu City, the terrain is high all the way, and several major ferry crossings have to take this road when entering the city. There are many pedestrians on the road is wide and flat, and the carriage is not bumpy. Qin Sang got off the car at the foot of Qiming Mountain and looked up at the high mountains in front of him. The road on the mountain looked a bit dangerous, his legs and feet were not flexible, and he was a little confused. The mountains on both sides of the Wuling River are undulating, and Qiming Mountain is just a peak in this long mountain range, and it is not very conspicuous among the mountains. However, Qiming Mountain has its own unique spiritual beauty and charm. Between the dense forests on the mountain, there are sometimes raised eaves and corners of temples and platforms, and occasionally the long sound of bells echoes in the mountains and forests, clearing people's hearts. Qin Sang heard from the coachman a few strange and enchanting legends in Qiming Mountain, and he did not know whether these temples and Taoist temples chose Qiming Mountain because of various legends, or whether they had these legends after they came. Qin Sang reluctantly climbed halfway, and met a few people who had gone to Qinjiangwan for medical treatment, and with their help, he came down to Qinjiangwan, which is located halfway through the back mountain. Qin Sang leaned on a stick and stood still in front of the gate of Qinjiangwan. The scale of Taoist temple is really not small. The Taoist temple is surrounded by large bamboo forests. The afternoon sun is not hot, the bamboo leaves are rustling, and the cool breeze is blowing. Because the mountain is steep, you can see the inner floors from outside the view. The architectural style is similar to the Taoist temples that Qin Sang has seen in his previous life, but they are all very dilapidated. The roof shingles are everywhere, and the thatch under the tiles the clusters are exposed, and it is estimated that there are few leaks. Standing outside can hear the voice inside, and there are not many people. Qin Sang moved in step by step along the blue stone steps. The stone bar on the door lintel was engraved with the words Qingyang View. 2 pieces of decayed wooden doors were hung diagonally on both sides, and the knockers on them were covered with rust. Entering the door is a large courtyard with haystacks, donkey pens, ancient wells, rolls, millstones, and stone mortars. There are 2 large gardens. The small vegetable grows, and the large vegetable grows inside. Qin Sang doesn't know what it is. It is probably herbal medicine. A few high steps behind the courtyard, above it is a hall, the largest and most magnificent hall in the entire Qingyang temple, and the best repaired. On a wooden plaque on the Great Hall of, the big characters of Qi Jin read Qinjiang Hall, and the paint on the words is about to fall off. Is not a place where gods live. Qin Sang sighed secretly and was about to go in. 3 people inside opened the door. 2 ragged men stood with a pale old woman. They turned their heads and thanked them again and again, promising to send the consultation fee next month. Come. Qin Sang knew that this world really has gods, and he dared not be disrespectful, so his expression naturally became solemn, and he walked into the Qingyang Palace lightly. You reading www.youcanshu.com. The main hall is empty, and the large paintings on the walls are peeling off, mottled, and it is impossible to see what was originally painted. Only the 3 statues in the main hall are as bright as new, and the lacquer and engravers are extremely exquisite. There is a stick of incense burning on the table, the smoke is curling, and the room is full of sweet fragrance. On the side of the offering table, there is a long table, 2 cabinets, one filled with medicine and one full of scriptures. Behind the long table is a thin old man sitting like loose, giving an old man pulse. The old hair and beard are all white, the face is not old, the eyes are especially bright, scorching, and a long white beard hangs down to the chest, which is really a fairy style. He was wearing a cyan robe, which was washed a little white, but very clean. On his right hand is pen, ink, paper, inkstone, and on his left hand is a medicine box, as well as strange tools such as medicine hose, cinnabar, yellow paper, and sticks. He is the Taoist Jigzhen, Qin Sang thought. My son, do you come to offer incense or cure? Qin Sang looked over at the sound, and saw a small Taoist priest walking out from the crowd waiting for medical treatment. He was 13 or 14 years old. The Taoist robe looked a little big and funny, and his appearance was white. I remembered that the old man punting said that the Taoist Ji had a disciple. Qin Sang smiled on his face. The little road leader is polite. My surname is Qin. I hurt my leg the day before yesterday. Ask the Taoist leader to help. The little Taoist took a small wooden pier and said, Master Qin, please sit down. Qin Sang sat down, and the little Taoist lifted Qin Sang's injured leg, reached out to touch the bone, and said, Master Qin, your leg bones are not broken, maybe some bones are cracked, decoct some bone building decoctions. It won't take long to heal. If you are not in a hurry, you can sit and wait for a while and let my master look at it for you. Qin Sang came to the old Taoist priest, and he naturally promised, there is a hard work. Minjiu, take 2 medicines for the old man. The old Dao yelled, holding a brush in his hand, and quickly wrote the prescription on the paper. The little Taoist hurried over, took the medicine according to the prescription, crushed it with the medicine, and then wrapped it with lotus leaves. In the middle, he had to deal with other patients. He was busy and sweated on his forehead. The old man stood awkwardly and watched the little Taoist work. When he took the lotus leaf-packed medicine, his hands trembled. He walked to the Taoist Ji and stopped talking, waiting for the Taoist Ji to show to the other patient. He opened his palm and whispered, Living God, you are merciful. The little old man came from the north, and he just found a place to live. The child only found a job at the ferry yesterday. The wages will not be paid until next month. This is a few dollars in his hand. Jixin Taoist wrote another person's prescription and handed it to Minjiu to grab the medicine. He looked up at the old man and sighed, Old man, these are enough medicines. Don't worry about the consultation fee. It's not too late to send it back when the family is rich. Let's keep the account. Waiting for the Taoist Jixin to write it down in the thick account book, the old man left with a grateful expression. Qin Sang sat at the end, watching the 2 masters and apprentices are busy, thinking, unknowingly the sky has dimmed, and there are 2 people in front of him who helped him up the mountain. I saw more than a dozen patients in a row, but most of them came from the north. One afternoon, except for a couple who came to ask for talisman paper to exorcise evil spirits, an old lady asked for a signature, but there was no one who offered incense. The old way didn't make much money in the account, but both the master and the disciple didn't have a hint of impatient expression on their faces. Sang was full of emotion. Little brother lifted his leg up. After waiting for the patient in front to finish reading, Qin Sang walked over and lifted his injured leg according to the old instructions. Seeing Lao Dao finished writing the prescription, ordered to grab the medicine, and then booked it, his voice was hard to hide his tiredness. Qin Sang's heart moved slightly, and he whispered softly, Dao Master, I heard that there is a steady stream of people fleeing from the north. I will see you in the future. There must be more and more. There are only you and Xiao Dao Kang in the view, and you have to go up the mountain to collect medicine. I'm afraid I can't be too busy. Without a word, Qin Sang Yuguang saw that the little Taoist's eyes were bright, and he looked at Master expectantly. Jixin Taoist did not raise his head and interrupted Qin Sang. The little brother has just seen what is happening in Guangzhou. The believing and faithful people are all poor people, and they can't make a few pennies a year, and they can't support them. Even a Taoist priest can't afford to pay the little brother's monthly money. The little Taoist Minjiu darkened his eyes and pouted his mouth. Qin Sang didn't expect the old way to speak so directly, but he is not so easy to give up. He smiled and said, It's true that the master, the junior really wants to find a place to live, but unfortunately he accidentally injured his leg and it is difficult to find a way to survive. The Taoist chief was busy before he started thinking. The younger generation does not ask for monthly money, but only asks for a shelter from the wind and rain and begs for food. Jigsan Taoist raised his head and glanced at Qin Sang, stroking his long beard and said, "The little brother is a great time, why bother to bend down in the mountains and find a righteous student at the ferry, so that you can start a family and a career? This is the right way." Seeing Jigsan Taoist's tone loosened, Qin Sang hurriedly hit the iron while it was hot. Dao Chong Mingjian, the younger generation, had studied with the master in the village for a few years, and was able to write and paint, which can help the Taoist transcribe records, grind herbs, and follow up when he recovers. You go up the mountain to collect medicine. If the Taoist master doesn't dislike it, he will leave me for a month to try. If I am really unusable, it will not be too late to drive me down the mountain. Jigsan Taoist really moved, squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Sang for a long time. "No matter, I'm so poor and old, I'm not afraid that my little brother is trying to be poor." As he said, the Taoist Ji took a writing brush and drew out a piece of yellow paper. "Let me see if I write 2 words. Qin Sang took the pen and dictated a few words, looking at the Taoist Jigsan with anxiety. He didn't know how to use a brush in his previous life. Fortunately, Qin Sanwa had learned it, but the word was also boring enough. It could only be said that he didn't fall apart, he knew it, and there were 2 words that he didn't write. But Qin Sang also learned that this world is similar to the ancient times in the previous life, and there are very few people who can read characters, so he can be regarded as a high-level talent. Seeing the Taoist Jigsan holding the yellow paper in silence, Qin Sang remedied, "The younger generation's heart is easy to learn since childhood, but unfortunately there has been a change in the family. I only read books for a few years. If I was accepted by the Taoist, I would definitely study hard in the future." "It's okay." The Taoist Gxin nodded. The Taoist temple is full of Taoist medical scriptures. If the little brother is interested, he can read the scriptures with Minjiu at night. Also, the conditions in the Taoist temple are simple and the food is not very oily, so the little brother might endure it. "You call me Qin Sang, Chief Daoist," Qin Sang said quickly. "I also came from a poor family and can endure hardship. Don't worry, I will abide by the rules and disciplines, and will not cause you trouble." Jigsan Taoist shook his head. "You have never been a monk, so you don't have to be too restrictive. There is only one thing, you can't bring a woman in. In addition to Taoism, poor Tao will not restrain you, but if you do anything to cause misfortune, it has nothing to do with the poor Tao. At this time, there is something to say first, so don't blame the poor Tao for not being affectionate in the future." Was finally taken in, Qin Sang did not say no. Follow the instructions of the Taoist commander. Mr. Qin www.mtlnovel.com. There are no occupants in several houses here. You can choose one. I will cook first, and I will bring you the bedding and robe at night. Took Qin Sang and stayed, and the Taoist Jigsan was exempted from the consultation fee, so Minjiu took Qin Sang to choose a place to live later. Both bedding and Taoist gowns were given away. Later, I would eat with them and Minjiu was responsible for doing it. Senior brother Minjiu, both of us are working under the Taoist commander. I am a few years older than you, so you can call me senior brother. Qin Sang pulled the Minjiu's set clothes. I will help you burn the fire in a while. You can introduce me first. Where do you live with the Taoist chief? Minjiu lives with the old ways and has never had any friends. Suddenly a senior came to him and he felt close. He smiled and pointed to a room, and said crisply, "Brother, I live there with master." Qin Sang looked over and saw that Minjiu was referring to the row of houses behind the Qingyang temple. The entire Qingyang temple has 4 entrances. There are 3 rows of houses behind the Qingyang temple, 1 row has 6 rooms, a stone steps path in the middle leads to the end of the Taoist temple, and 3 rooms on each side. The houses are all built of stone, the frame is intact, only the roof is badly damaged. Jigsan Taoist and Minjiu live in the first 3 rooms on the left. Minjiu pointed to the other 3 rooms. These houses have bamboo beds. If there are laymen staying overnight, or the patient has no time to go down the mountain, they can live here. Sometimes the patient does not need money, and the layman pays a penny for a night, regardless of food. Qin Sang followed Minjiu and listened to his introduction. When he came to the last row of houses, Qin Sang suddenly heard the sound of gurgling water, and walked up. There was no back wall at Qingyang Temple, but at the end there was a large bamboo forest. In the depths of the bamboo forest, spring water dripped down from the top of the mountain, forming a stream through the forest. After that, the spring water ding-dong, birds whispering and insects sing, the environment is very quiet. Qin Sang fell in love at first glance. There is no water in the well. Draft, washing and watering the garden all have to come up to carry water. The steps are high and slippery, making it particularly difficult to walk. Minjiu pouted her mouth, her tone of dissatisfaction, her little eyes peeked at Qin Sang. Qin Sang noticed Minjiu's careful thoughts, and smiled slightly. In the future, you will be responsible for washing and cooking, and you will leave these rough tasks to the seniors. Really? Minjiu jumped up and clapped his hands happily. Then we have to wait for the senior brother to heal his leg injury. Children are really easy to buy, and Minjiu gets close to Qin Sang all at once. Qin Sang looked around, pointed to the last row of houses, and said, "Can I choose one to live here?" There are unknowable secrets in him, and he wants to stay away from the Taoist Zhigzhan so as not to be discovered. Of course, Minjiu said, "Master is asking me to clean up all these rooms. Someone used to borrow houses from the mountains, but they all moved out. Now more and more victims are coming from the north. Master said that the weather is getting worse. It's getting colder, take out the house, take in some people who have no place to live, and help them through the cold winter. Some temples on the mountain have already started. Master said that we don't demand merits, but we must do good deeds." Qin Sang picked the house in the northeast corner of the middle, dusty and entangled with cobwebs. In fact, 3 rooms are connected together, separated by a bamboo wall in the middle, and 2 interiors have old bamboo beds. Qin Sang chose the one on the farthest side, and the setting sun just came in. Through the window, vaguely a section of the river can be seen from the mountains and the scenery is very good. The food is green vegetables, pickles and watu. After eating, drinking the herbs that Minjiu helped him boil, the two went up to clean the room together. The bamboo bed was replaced with new bamboo and the bedding was laid. It was busy late at night. There are no clocks, and Qin Sang doesn't know when. Seeing that Minjiu keeps yawning, he urges him to go back to rest. Minjiu finally someone spoke, reluctantly, "Brother, I'm going to boil a pot of water." "Hello, take a shower." Qin Sang punched the tiger with a long punch, washed it, and listened carefully for a while. Taoist Zhigzhan and Minjiu were already asleep. Only then did they carefully cover the doors and windows, and took out the few things on his body with a ray of moonlight for inspection. He sat cross-legged on the bed, lined up with money bags, colorful kits, parchment, wooden swords, Yama banners, and books. Tips and sheepskin, there is really no name, so I had to put it aside. Picking up the ebony sword in one hand, Qin Sang frowned, really can't figure out how this small wooden sword became a flying sword. The artifact drips blood to recognize relatives? This thought has been wandering in Qin Sang's mind for a long time, and he was cruel, cut a hole in his finger with a bamboo piece, and dropped a drop of blood on the ebony sword. Regardless of finger pain, Qin Sang looked at the ebony sword expectantly, only seeing blood dripping up, and then sliding down Guanggua's sword. Qin Sang opened his eyes and dropped blood to the ground, fainting. Qin Sang was not reconciled, touched the Yan Luo banner, so he repeated the technique, and finally tried the kit and sheepskin, but none of them responded. Damn, those who write novels are all liars. Qin Sang cursed secretly and picked up the book, The Last Hope. Netherworld Classic, the first 3 big characters in the book, a dozen thin pages, every sentence is obscure, and there are many words in it. Qin Sang turned to the end and found that the last 2 pages contained a Yan Luo banner, and the content was also unreadable. At least this book is related to Yamaha. The man in black died with the young man with the help of Yama banners. It must be an artifact of the fairy family. Thinking that this book is very likely to be the scripture for immortality, Qin Sang's heart suddenly became hot, but he also realized that even if it is really a cultivation method, he must read and understand it. Otherwise, if he gets into trouble, he won't know how to die. The prerequisite for to understand is to recognize words. It seems that I really have to settle down and study the classics in Qinjiangwan for a period of time. This Taoist temple in the mountain is very quiet, and there are food and drink. It doesn't matter if you stay, and you have to sort out your confused thoughts. Although he inherited Qin Sanwa's memory, Qin Sang did not have such unforgettable feelings for Qin Sanwa's relatives, and now Qin's father and Qin mother definitely thought that he had died in the hands of the bandits. It's okay if you don't see it, you can make up for it later if you have a chance. He doesn't want to go back to Wang's village. Even if he doesn't ask for immortality, he doesn't want to be trapped in such a place and live a mediocre life. If he hadn't seen Yujian Fixian with his own eyes, Qin Sang would be the same as in his previous life. What he seeks is nothing more than wealth, fame, and fortune. Bai Jian Glan said that immortals are hard to find, but this netherworld classic has given Qin Sang hope. Maybe he really has a chance. My thoughts were confused, I didn't know when I fell asleep, and I had no dreams all night. The next day Qin Sang was awakened by the sound of a bird, and the sky was bright. Qin Sang hurriedly got up, packed up, and went down with a walking stick. As soon as he arrived at the back door of the Qingyang Palace, he heard the sound of chanting and wooden fish coming out of it. Cautiously walked in and saw that Taoist Gxin and Ming Yu were doing morning classes before the incense table. 3 people seeking medical treatment had already arrived in the hall, as well as a layman, reciting sutras with Taoist Gxin. Qin Sang didn't dare to disturb him, so Minjiao glanced at him obliquely. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com winked at him and motioned for him to go ahead. Qin Sang nodded to the person seeking medical treatment, walked to the firewood room in the courtyard, and saw a bowl of porridge reserved for him on the stove, which was still hot. Washed his face, smashed the porridge into his stomach, and a busy day began. With Qin Sang's help, the pressure on the 2 Jixin Taoists and apprentices suddenly decreased a lot. Qin Sang didn't understand medicine, and sat behind the desk, helping to record and grind herbs. Old-fashioned diagnosis, prescribing prescriptions, drawing symbols, resolving signs, fortune-telling, reciting scriptures, and praying, can be described as versatile. Minjiao is very busy receiving patients and pilgrims, boiling water, grabbing medicine, and cooking. Unknowingly, it was getting late, and the last patient was sent away. Minjiao bolted the door of Taoist temple, and the master and apprentice divided the work to clean the messy hall. Today is the 7th day of the 7th lunar month. The old Dao took a look at the almanac for a while, then flipped through a few pages of account books, and said, "The poor Dao will go down the mountain tomorrow. There are 2 small ceremonies to do. You stay and take care of the Taoist temple." With that said, the Taoist Jigzin got up and turned over the medicine cabinet. On the 9th and 10th day of the 9th and 10th day, the poor road is going to Huanghuang Mountain to collect medicine. If there is a patient going up the mountain, the minor illness will come to see the moon, and if they are uncertain, let them go to the 11th day. Come again. Let's cook and make evening class after dinner. Yes, master. Qin Sang followed Minjiao out, and saw that Minjiao's face was a little disappointed. After asking, he realized that the Taoist Jigzin had to go up the mountain every month to collect medicine. The Huanghuang mountain that I went to this time was deep in the mountains. The mountain was steep and there were many rare herbs. In addition to treating illnesses and saving people, on auspicious days, households will ask Jixin Taoists to go down the mountain to do things. This business can make money, but it can't rob the monks and Taoist views in front. In general, the Taoist people of Jixin will bring the bright moon down the mountain for a long time. Qin Sang knew that the Taoist Gxin was still worried about him. That night, Qin Sang and Minjiahu took evening classes together to learn Taoism. Like the Netherworld Sutra, Qin Sang couldn't read it. Fortunately, the Taoist Jixin explained it patiently. Qin Sang studied hard and found a piece of charcoal by himself and wrote down what he learned. The brush is too difficult to learn, he doesn't want to learn, and the Taoist Jixin doesn't force it. When he returned to the room late at night, Qin Sang took out the Netherworld Sutra again, and compared the words he had just learned to understand the meaning of the scriptures. It was very difficult, but he was not tired of it. The next day, the Taoist Jixin went down the mountain to do things, and came back at noon. The donkey was carrying a bag of coarse grains. In the afternoon, Minjiahu steamed a pot of vegetable watu and fried a can of salted fish to help the Taoist take care of his luggage and medicine box. On the 9th day of the 9th day, Qin Sang woke up and did not see the Taoist Jixin. He asked Minjiahu to find out that he had left when he was yin. On that day, he and Minjiahu did what the Taoist Jixin told him, and there was nothing wrong with it. In the early morning of the 10th day of the new year, Qin Sang finally came to rest from exhaustion, and played Fuhu Chong Chuan in front of the house early in the morning. "Brother, what punch did you hit?" Minjiahu was holding a bowl of porridge, sitting on the rock next to him, watching Qin Sang's tigers grow in the wind, a little eager to move. "This martial art is called Fuhu Chong Chuan. Why, the Taoist master never taught you martial arts?" After Qin Sang hit, he felt that his whole body was unobstructed, and asked, wiping his sweat. "No," Minjiahu shook her head, biting the tip of his chopsticks, with curiosity. "Brother, master can martial arts. How do I know? How many days have I been here?" Qin Sang rolled his eyes and pondered secretly. He thought that the Taoist Jixin dared to go into the mountain to collect medicine, not afraid of wolves, tigers, and leopards, and maybe martial arts, so he deliberately punched in front of the bright moon to induce him to speak. "If you know martial arts, there is no reason not to teach it to your apprentice." In the past 2 days, Qin Sang can realize that the Taoist Ji is very fond of Minjiahu and treat him as his own son. Is it really just an ordinary Taoist priest? On weekdays, do you only learn scriptures and medical skills with the Taoist leader? Haven't learned spells? Spell? Minjiahu looked dazed. "I often read the scriptures and recognize characters, and I have also studied the hexagrams. I can solve the signs and break the characters and trace the talisman. But I am not proficient. Master still dare not let me do it in front of others. Give Master's help." Master also taught me to identify herbs, see a doctor and prescribe prescriptions, but Master said that I will have to study for 20 years before I can become a teacher, otherwise it would be a life-threatening mistake. Qin Sang's eyes lit up. "Fulu is not a spell? I heard the couple say that the house is restless. The chief of the Taoist priest gave them a charm, saying that it can avoid evil and drive away evil. Isn't this a spell?" Minjiahu chuckled, looked around and then whispered, "Brother, I tell you, don't go outside and talk. Master said, these are all deceptive. Lie? You have gods here." Qin Sang was dumbfounded, and said angrily, "If you are not allowed, you are not afraid of people coming to you. Mysterious and mysterious things, who knows what is accurate and what is inaccurate?" Minjiahu shook his head and shook his head. "Even if someone comes to the door, there are words that can stop you, brother, you will know sooner or later." Qin Sang was very injured and was listless all day. Minjiahu pestered him to learn Fuhu Chong Chuan, so he had to promise to teach him if his leg injury healed. In a blink of an eye, Qin Sang stayed in Taoist temple for more than 20 days, and the 3 masters and disciples really knew each other. These days, Qin Sang has been working hard to practice boxing, recite the scriptures and learn Chinese characters. In addition to the rituals, the Taoist master taught Minjiao medicine and the divination and interpretation of the talisman not to avoid him. Only then did Qin Sang confirm that they were really talking and deceiving, completely giving up. However, there are many insights into the truth implicit in the deception, and he has gained a lot. The injury on his leg got better day by day. He didn't need to walk on crutches and couldn't get off. First, he chopped bamboo and used water pipes to bring water from the creek to the yard, and built a small pool of stones in the yard. Tried several plans and finally made it. This time, Minjiao didn't have to do the heaviest work on her body, and the bamboo tube continued to flow, and the vegetables and herbs in the garden grew better. Not only did Minjiao brothers call more and more affectionate, but the view of Jixin Taoist also changed. Then, Qin Sang made another bamboo ladder, climbed up to the roof, and replaced all the broken tiles in the room where the three of them lived. Later, he felt that eating in Taoist temple was really indifferent, so he wondered how to do a few tricks, and he really caught a few hare and pheasant. Minjiao persuaded Qin Sang not to kill in the Taoist temple, he would be punished by the master, and Qin Sang had to set up an earthen stove next to the stream. Outside the Taoist temple, the Taoist Jixin couldn't control it. This world does not have as many seasonings as his previous life, and he is not good at cooking. The grassy and earthy smell of game is difficult to remove. He can only eat it by roasting and sprinkling with salt. The taste is acceptable. Minjiao couldn't bear it, he didn't dare to kill, but he dared to eat and eat well. It was another 10 days, the leaves were withering, and the weather turned cold. The wind on the mountain was blowing on the body, and it was colder than the mountain. The three masters and disciples were doing evening classes in the Qingyang Hall. The cold wind blew into the hall, and the flames on the oil lamps flickered. Qin Sang stretched his waist and flipped the light. Seeing that it will take a while for the master and apprentice to finish the evening class next to him, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com whispered, "Dao master, I will go back to my house and sleep first." While speaking, he picked up a few pieces of paper that he had just written, wrapped his robe, and left the hall. His leg bones had been healed, and he was planning a trip to Three Witch City. Reading changes fate. In the past month, Qin Sang has worked harder than he was in the third year of high school in his previous life. Today, I finally recognized and understood all the words in the Netherworld Sutra. The Taoists of Jixin are well known and knowledgeable, and they are more knowledgeable than expected, and they are willing to teach patiently. Qin Sang is very grateful to him. Back to the residence, Qin Sang first hit Fu Chang Chuan to calm his restless mood. Qin Sang has been following Bai Jianglin's instructions to practice Fu Chang Chuan every morning and evening. He never stops, and obviously feels that his physical fitness has become stronger, but the legendary Genkai has not even seen the shadow. After punching and washing away his stinky sweat, Qin Sang went back to the room, took out a stack of yellow paper from under the bed, and filled it with charcoal, and then compared the book, using the moonlight to make up the last sentence. The entire Netherworld classic has finally been translated. Qin Sang was holding the yellow paper, and his excited palms trembled a little, took a deep breath, calmed down, and read through from the beginning. Over and over again, he had no distractions, immersed in the Netherworld classic, first read his own translated version, reread the original, a little speculation, and then revise his own translation in turn. Qin Sang didn't dare to practice rashly. The ghost knew a little bit wrong, and he would go crazy. According to his current superficial view, Netherworld Jing is indeed a practice method that guides people to practice. After the practice method is completed, there will be a wave of Jiang flowing in the body along the meridian, and there are narrations such as Zhou Tian. Fortunately, he has been following the Jixin Taoist to study the medical classics, and has some understanding of meridians, acupoints, etc., and can barely understand it.